Most people know what Whittaker-Bermite is. If you don't, it's the land that's south of the Saugus Speedway, Santa Clarita Metrolink station. 996 acres. They're cleaning it up. If you along Soledad Boulevard or Soledad Road, just to the east of the train station, there's a lot of work going on in that area. They're building a water reclamation plant there. It's going to be a water treatment plant that will produce, will pump 600 gallons a minute. They're going to start treating the groundwater. It should take place within about a year. It'll start pumping the groundwater to clean up all the groundwater in the Bermite area for the perchlorate. But the perchlorate, like Lynn said, is in the Saugus Aquifer, and it's migrated off of the property, and it's contaminated quite a few Santa Clarita wells, along with some Newhall wells also, and Valencia wells. The perchlorate creates thyroid problems. Saugus, or CLWA, is treating 2 of the wells, Saugus 1 and 2. Right now, Valencia water well 201 is going back online soon. They're going to pump and treat at that site. The Saugus 1 and 2 wells, which one's next to Saugus Cafe, and the other one's over next to Magic Mountain Parkway, right next to the river. Those 2 wells are being treated by the Rio Vista plant. They're next to Lowe's on Bouquet Canyon. Now they're just treating it for perchlorate, but now they're starting to show VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, which are solvents and things that were put into the ground many years ago. And they did a study, and the VOCs are showing up. They're not to the reportable levels, but they did do a study to find out where they're coming from. Most of them are coming off of the Bermite property. Some are coming off of the Saugus industrial area. Anyway, they're doing cleanup. Cleanup was supposed to be completed by the end of 2016. Right now, we're pushing it to 2017. They're working diligently up there. It's been a couple months now since we went on the tour up there. They didn't have, being we had very little rain this year, they've been able to complete they've been working on the soils, and they've been working full speed ahead. They're working on the area they call OU2, which is over towards the Circle J area, is what they're cleaning up now. OU5, which is the operational unit, and it's closest to Soledad. It's up to the first ridge line. That is real close to being totally complete with them treating the soil, and then they replace the soil back where they got it from, and then they're going to reseed everything with natural vegetation. So it's supposed to look like it did once it all grows back in. But anyway, we have a meeting for the next meeting for the Whittaker-Bermite Citizens Advisory Group will be July 6th, and we meet at the Santa Clarita Methodist Church on Bouquet Canyon across from El Presidente restaurant, and we at 7 o'clock, and everybody's welcome to come there. We find out the latest and greatest things that are going on up on the property. I've been doing this for about 8 years now, and when I first started, they said it'll be complete with 3 to 5 years. And up until last year, they said it's going to be complete in about 3 to 5 years. Right now, they said it was going to be complete in 2016. Now we've pushed it to 2017. So it's going to get done, and they're working really hard, but it's still kind of an open-ended question. Anyway, we went on a tour, and there was just some of the Mr. Ferdman and Mr. Merle and me and Cam and John, where they took us on a tour. Jose took us up around. Jose is the project manager. and he took us and gave us a tour of the area. That there is one of the office buildings. They have a business complex just on the other side of the railroad tracks. If you look to the left of the train station, you see the entrance, and there's a big warehouse there. You have to go down underneath the railroad tracks. On the other side is a big office complex of all these dilapidated buildings. That was all the business center for Whittaker-Bermite. In front of the building straight ahead there's a darker gray area. At one time last year, that whole area was excavated down 30 feet. And they treated all the soil there, and it's been replaced. They were supposed to go underneath the building too, but they decided that the building has asbestos and lead paints in it. So they were going to have to, before they took the building down, they were going to have to do the asbestos and the lead paints. So instead, they decided they weren't going under the building. They were going to clean up as far as they could, and then put into the deed restrictions when a developer comes in that the developer is going to have to pay for the abatement of the asbestos and the lead paint, and then also clean up, or then they'll come in and clean up the soil afterwards underneath the building. That's not my idea, and I wasn't real happy about that, but that's what they're planning on doing now. They don't want to spend any more money than what they're already spending. Gentleman who's back to us, that's Jose Diaz. He's the project manager from the Department of Toxic Substance Control. And the lady with the vest on is Mary Sumauer. She's the information officer for us, and she's the one that gets us the tours when we can get up there. That's some more of the office complex. They do a lot of filming up there, and that's the only way that property can make any money is the filming. And they've had several different TV shows filmed in that area and stuff. They've been doing lots and lots of digging and treating the soils. They're basically all their treatment areas are almost full capacity. What they do is they dig up all the soil, put it into these big cells, and they wet the water, or wet the soil all down. Then they put glycerin and sugars into the soils, and then they let the organisms, the bacteria organisms and stuff that are in the soils, start eating the sugars. That also eats the perchlorate. And once the soils dry out, and then they test them to make sure that they're clear of the perchlorate, then they load them back in and they take them back to where they got them from. That's just going up the road up to the back. I know why this could be very valuable property, and everybody wants in on this stuff, because this is a beautiful, beautiful area. And if we could get some roads across there, it would make things so much easier in Santa Clarita. I mean, and like the sheriff's station we were talking about, if the roads ever get put in, then the sheriff's station would be a good idea right where it's at. But right now, with no roads, if they put the sheriff's station in there, they're going to have to go all the way around if they want to go over to Newhall. But eventually, Via Princesa will go through. But that's eventually, like I said, 3 to 5 years, and that started 8 years ago. That's just a bunch of debris that they've had. They'll be moving most of the debris, but a lot of that debris is going to be left for the developers. That's all non-polluted area. It's just junk. That's an area that they excavated, and they've refilled it, compacted it, and then they've reseeded the whole area. Those are some wells that they've put in. Those are for what they have soil vapor extraction wells all over the property. They have 9 units that are they're big vacuum machines, and they just suck the VOCs that I was telling you about, the volatile organic compounds. They suck those out of the soil, and they have to get all those VOCs cleaned up out of the soils before they can go in and dig and get the perchlorate out. And so they use these big, huge vacuums. I'll show you one here in a second, to suck the VOCs out, and then these machines are working 24 hours a day. There's one machine, and I'll show you in a second, that the stuff they have to they're getting so much stuff out of this one area they have to freeze it. and then they transport it off of the property because they can't. There's so much coming in, they can't put it up into the air. The rest of the stuff they treat it through carbon filters, and then it's released into the air, and it's all managed by the AQMD, and they keep a strict eye on all of what's going on with that. Those are water pipes that they're putting in to come down to the treatment plant that I was telling you about. There's going to be these big water pipes buried. They've got wells all over the area. They're going to pump the water, groundwater. They transport it up to a ridge line where there's a storage facility that they'll fill up with that, and then they use gravity which will go down over the ridge down into the treatment plant. But those are some of the pipes that they're using for when they get everything in line. It's just a picture of the area. There are 4 dumps on the property on the west side. They're called the hula bowls. The hula bowls were, like I say, dumps. When they had excess supplies and they didn't have anything to do with them, or they had junk and everything else, they just dumped them in and they used them as landfills. Well, they have to go through these landfills and make sure there's no unexploded ordinances that it might be in there. So they've still got to go through those. They've tested some of them. I think there's only 2 that possibly will have like perchlorate and stuff. Most of them don't, but they've got to go through all of them anyhow. I just got a letter with their approval to dig. They're supposed to be just starting that this summer. There's one of the soil vapor extraction units. Like I say, there's 9 of them on the property. It took them forever. About a year and a half ago, they finally got power to run these things. When Bermite closed, they pulled all the power off of the property, and they had to go through a whole design process and get Edison's okay, and they had to reinstall telephone poles or power poles and all that to get electricity back so that they could take care of all this stuff to start this cleanup. Another wellhead up on top. Like I say, this property is absolutely gorgeous. And we go up to the very top. There's a water tank up, and you can go to the top, and from the water tank you can see Canyon Country, Newhall, and Valencia. The only thing you can't see is Saugus, but you can see three sections of the Santa Clarita Valley just from up on top, and it's absolutely beautiful up there, especially in the spring when everything is green. What's that? It's an old water tank that nobody uses any longer. This here is a set that when they were filming the unit in Santa Clarita, the unit put this up there, and they still use it now and again for different shows, military type things and all that. It was just used not too long ago, but it's sitting up on the property, and it's used every once in a while. There's one of the views from the top that's looking down. I think it's looking down at Circle J, and that's kind of the area that they're going to put in the water tank, where they pump all the groundwater up to the water tank, and then the water tank's going to distribute the water down to the treatment plant. Still looking down Circle J, looking out in the area. That's looking towards Newhall Pass. You can see the freeway up in the top left there. And they're cleaning up some of these piles of debris and stuff. They do have some piles, and they're making Whittaker clean up all the ones after they've deposited it. So they're cleaning that up also. More debris, but some of that's going to be left. There's those this treatment cells that I was telling you about. Those cells are 100 feet long, 20 foot wide, 6 foot tall, and they fill those with dirt. They put water on, moisten them down, put the glycerin and the sugars into them, and then they cover them in black vinyl and let them sit there. And it usually takes 60 days or thereabouts, depending on the weather, for it to be treated. Then they're tested, and once they're tested, then they remove them from there. So there's 2 treatment pads on the property. That the road back there, that's Golden Valley Road. So this is up in the southeast corner of the property. And so this is up from this is a view from up on top by this water tank I was telling you about. It's up to the highest point in the property. That's Jose from Department of Toxic Substance Control. That's looking towards Soledad. It's looking down. Center Point's down there at the first set of buildings is the Center Point area. Then that's the I think that's the Fallen Warriors Bridge. They're going over in. This is they have a small water treatment plant right now, which is down on the bottom. It's down near the towards the train station, and that's the. But it only handles about 200 gallons. But right now, with the water table so low, that thing's barely pumping any kind of water out at all. The water tables in the area for the alluvium side, which is near Soledad Canyon Road, they're trying to keep the plume of perchlorate stuff from moving on underneath Sauga Speedway. So they're doing different. They're doing some soil vapor extraction. They're also doing this organic kind of curtain deal that they want, trying to keep it out. The only problem is it needs water to stop it. The water tables, which generally run 20 feet below the surface in that area. With this drought, the water tables are down below 80 feet now. And so to do some of this organic treatment and stuff, they need the water, but there's no water there for them to put it in, so they had to put soil vapor extraction in there too. There is a plant right next to the train station where this soil vapor extraction plant is. You can see that if you go into the train station, or if you can just look over through the train station. That's a water retention. That's the one you can see from Soledad, and they collect all the groundwater and all the runoff into all these, so that it doesn't go into any of the outside areas. And they will use that water on the property back where when they're using it on the soil when they treat it. That's one of the pipes that's being built. It's going to come down to the water treatment plant. And then they're going to go underneath the railroad tracks. And then they had to get okay from the railroad to go underneath the tracks. There's a viaduct where you can drive through, and we couldn't understand how come they just wouldn't put the pipe through where this viaduct goes, but they'd rather dig underneath the train tracks and have to get all the other permits and things. They have been carting some soils off of the property. There was a big pile right from where this picture was taken. It would be right behind us. The soils contained a bunch of metals, and they can't treat the metals, so they're taking the soils off. Found out that some of this soil that they were taking off the property, they were taking to Chiquita landfill. And they said, oh, well, that's very interesting. Well, they had another big pile there with all these metals in it and stuff, and it sat there for a while, and it was scheduled to be moved. And it took them a couple of months. They finally moved it, and I asked Jose where they sent this to, because I thought, well, probably another one went to Chiquita landfill. He said no, they took all that contaminated metals. They took it to Yuma, Arizona. So all that soil went to Yuma, Arizona. Yes. So anyway, we got to see a train as we were standing there. One of the morning trains coming by, just a freight train. And then that was our tour. Anyway, like I say, they're working diligently up there. There's a lot of going on. We're keeping an eye on it. The next meeting we'll find out more what's going on with CLWA makes their presentation, Departments of Toxic Substance Control, Whittaker, and the city. We all get together in the afternoon in the City Hall for what they call a multi-jurisdictional task force meeting. And then we have our meeting at 7 o'clock in the evening where people that can't get off work and all that, we can try to inform everybody and what's going on the property. It's being cleaned up, remember, 3 to 5 years, and but that's been going on for 8. So right now, they had told us the end of 2016. Now it's being pushed to 17, so we'll see. They are working. I do know that. And as soon as they get this water treatment plant going, that'll start working, but that's a 40-year project. And that will be going for 40 years. There's some other legislation going on, but I'm not quite clear on it yet. We were trying to get Matt Stone from the CLWA to our CAG meeting, but he said he had a schedule conflict, so he won't be able to be there. But we'll talk to him at the multi-jurisdictional, and I'll report on what I have to, after I talk to him there. Anyway, like I say, July 6th at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's Wednesday evening at the United Methodist Church on Bouquet Canyon, and we'd love to see you there, and you can ask all kinds of questions of Jose Diaz for sure, and we try to get the answers, and eventually we'll have some roads going through there, but could be 3 to 5 years. Anyway, that's all I've got tonight. Like I say, July 6th. Hope to see everybody there. Thank you.